Young Tyler Lannister pored over his daily readings as his proud father looked on. Tyrion was determined to explain the purpose of the silent K in the word night. Lady Sansa had entered the Hand's chambers to speak with her husband.
The crowds are larger today.
Sansa exclaimed. Tyrion pretended not to hear her. The constant onslaught of hungry peasants and the challenging political issues were not normally discussed in front of their son. Tywin, son of Tytos, stammered young Tyler. A beaming Tyrion met eyes with his wife Sansa. Nearly 5 years old, and he already reads better than a Stark, teased Tyrion.
And nearly as tall as a Lannister.
Piped in Joanna Lannister. Tyrion again ignored the other lady in their chambers.
Young lady, that is no way to speak to your father.
Scolded Sansa as she glanced toward her husband for support.
Mother, father knows I meant nothing by it.
Joanna grinned. Tyrion could no longer contain his admiration for his daughter, now nearly 15 years old. Her long, bright blonde hair and raised cheekbones gave the essence of a young Cersei, though Tyrion never held it against her. Joanna's true parentage was King's Landing's worst-kept secret. Tyrion and Sansa agreed long ago if they were ever to have legitimate children of their own, Joanna was to never be treated differently. A challenging feat considering their son Tyler, heir to Casterly Rock, was born to them roughly 5 years ago. A sharp wit is the expectation of a Lannister lady, exclaimed Tyrion.
I'd prefer a sharp blade,
boasted Joanna. Sansa let them continue with a slight disapproving look. Favor your Aunt Arya, it seems, Tyrion replied.
Well, she does train Princess Brianna daily.
Joanna scoffed. Is that your preference? Asked her father.
Not really. The offer would be nice, though.
Joanna replied as she collected her young brother Tyler. Joanna and Tyler had departed for a common area as Sansa then approached Tyrion.
Nearly midday,
followed Sansa. Another council meeting. The time may come where we accomplish something around that damn table, Tyrion stated. Sansa approached him and spoke with a calm confidence.
The expansion of the council, to represent all the kingdoms, will be King Gendry's legacy. How else can we keep the kingdoms aligned, unless all the people feel their leaders have their best interests at heart?
She concluded. Tyrion sighed heavily, as he knew she was correct, ideally. Although, having moral ideals combined with good intentions can always be perverted and create more strife than the original issue did. Tyrion's sleepless nights were not to the expansion of the council, but the implementation of the king's command and fallout from the kingdom's high lords. Tyrion knew, as well as anybody, the powerful did not become powerful by sharing their authority. Now that diversifying political capital will be forced upon these families that went unchallenged for years, how will they react? Tyrion pondered this question as Sansa snapped at him.
Are you listening to me?
She demanded. Tyrion looked up and simply smiled at his wife, realizing how deep his thoughts might have looked to her.
You realize Joanna does that on purpose. Pushes boundaries, just to see what she can get away with,
suggested Sansa. She reminds me of my sister sometimes, just a little less murderous, grinned Tyrion. He always knew how to disarm Sansa. He wasn't belittling her concerns. Sansa just knew never to take herself too seriously, because her loving husband would always keep her grounded.
Better get a move on,
urged Sansa. Sir Davos then caught up with Tyrion on his way to the small council chamber. The sound of the men's boots reverberated off the paving stones in the hallway. For multiple minutes, neither man spoke. Tyrion knew Davos was expecting the same questions as last week, but the answers were likely just the same. This worried Tyrion, as many issues were facing the kingdoms. The drought in the Reach was affecting the third harvest in a row now. The gathering of peasants and farmers were holding the lords of Westeros responsible for the exceptionally dry summer. Of the few things Tyrion was not responsible for, the weather was at the top of the list. King Gendry was instilling a democratic council to handle major issues, so all the people of Westeros were to be properly represented. The liege lords of the Seven Kingdoms were to designate a single member to this council. This decision had been met with resistance by most, as the designated representatives were likely just to act as a puppet for each kingdom's high lord. The issue will be debated next was how to implement the expansion. Today's meeting would be the opening arguments as to who should have the authority to appoint these representatives. Tyrion had arrived to see a full table waiting for his presence. Tyrion strolled over to his seat and sat up as tall as he could, as Sir Davos helped himself to the final unoccupied chair. Tyrion scanned the table to see all the eyes looking back at him. Yara Greyjoy, Master of Ships, still favoring her lifeless left arm. Lady Missandei of Narth, the King's Master of Foreign Affairs, received her title shortly after the ascension of King Gendry. Lord Varys, the ever-present Master of Whisperers, still youthful and appearing to be no older than 18 years of age. Arya Stark, mother to Princess Brianna, was seated as the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. Grand Maester Walken was suggested by Bran Stark for the role on the Small Council. Master of War, Howland Reed, was the oldest member of the council and partook in Robert's rebellion at the side of Eddard Stark. His daughter, Sansa Lannister, was appointed as the King's Master of Laws. Sir Davos, Master of Coin, cleared his throat to silence the table as the Hand, Tyrion Lannister, began to address the council. Good day. I'm sure we are all anxious to hear the two compelling points of views that will likely shape the kingdom for generations. Tyrion paused. His comments drew immediate outbursts from across the table, as he had expected them to.
The High Lords of the Iron Islands support the Council's position of appointees by the Liege Lord,
bellowed Yara Greyjoy with a slight glare.
The point of this representation is to reduce tyranny, not change its face,
replied Missandei, calmly but directly.
Why a foreigner will have a say in these matters is beyond me,
spat Yara, while filling her goblet and setting down the pitcher.
I'm sure there are a great many things that are beyond your comprehension,
Missandei replied coolly. Tyrion then interjected himself to try to keep the peace. Ladies, please. We constitute the most diverse small council in recorded history. Tyrion paused and cleared his throat. We have lords and ladies born into riches, former slaves, and pardoned criminals that have a decision to report to our king, who was born a bastard, I might add. Tyrion sighed. We are here to form a consensus, not to trade insults. Now where do we stand on the current appointments? Tyrion asked.
The Iron Islands appoint Lord Vaelin Greyjoy,
Yara quickly answered. Lord Tarly has yet to survey the Reach due to the ongoing drought, Davos reported. I see, Tyrion replied. The sheer heat of the current summer was almost too much to bear. Tyrion could only imagine the stress Samuel Tarly must be under. He was again snapped out of his own thought by the next report. The Night's Watch held their election process and have decided to nominate Master Qyburn to vote by proxy via a rotating representative of illiterate watchmen present in King's Landing, reported Lord Reed. The King's Master of War continued to explain the Northmen's position. All houses, both major and minor, voted to conclude that my daughter, Mira Reed, will represent the North, Lord Reed concluded.
Elia Martell is still considering Dorne's position on the matter,
Missandei reported. The Lords of the Stormlands refused to appoint a representative until the Council decides on a direction, reported Arya Stark. Edmure Tully has appointed himself as the representative of the Riverlands, as did Robin Arryn of the Vale, finished Lord Varys in a disappointing tone. Just then, the double doors leading to the council chambers were briskly flung open by two members of the Kingsguard. All members of the room stood immediately to welcome the Lord of the Seven Kingdoms. King Gendry modestly walked to the head of the table opposite of his hand. Gendry always dressed simply, dark green silk tunic and rustic leather boots worthy of a seasoned blacksmith. His dark black hair was slightly longer than usual, as he brushed it away from his eyes and winked at his Lord Commander. Tyrion's eyes shifted to Arya just in time to see her blush and smile as she tried to hide her reaction by bowing her head. So sorry to interrupt. Please continue, King Gendry commanded as the council reclaimed their seats. Thank you, Your Grace. We were just about to start opening arguments, Tyrion answered. Lady Missandei will be representing the people, and Yara Greyjoy will be arguing on behalf of the High Lords, Tyrion informed his king. Should be compelling, Gendry chuckled. Tyrion nervously shifted in his seat as the arguments began. His doubt whether a consensus could be reached was drowned out by the shouts of the ever-growing crowds outside the Red Keep. He almost longed for the days of his father, Tywin Lannister, where arguments could be won by strict silence and a stern look. That was loyalty by fear, which is exactly what King Gendry was trying to eradicate. As the arguments wore on, the on-duty Kingsguard walked over to the chamber window to draw and close the shutters. Tyrion's shoulders slumped, as he knew this would not end well.